Good afternoon. Welcome to the ignITe Hub. My name is Kimberly Blackington. I am the director of the ignITe Hub. Today is our final Future of Tech Lunch and Learn session for 2022. So first, a thank you to everybody who supported the Hub this year. As a reminder, the ignITe Hub is Montgomery County's newest innovation center that focuses on tech and entrepreneurship and supporting our community in accessing the talent pipeline for careers in technology and supporting businesses, as well as supporting entrepreneurs. Today's topic is digital transformation of the artist's craft. We have my wonderful friend and colleague, Ramon de la Cruz, and he is going to talk with us a little bit more about how technology has impacted him as an artist. Ramon de la Cruz is the Chief Executive Artist at www.3dlce.com, De La Cruz Enterprises, LLC. From 2021 to 2022, Ramon, professionally known as Munch, published his first literary work titled Time is Greater Than Money, Volume 1, and released his debut with 9 original songs on Love, the album. Mr. de la Cruz's multimedia work experiences brought him through the halls of industries such as film, TV, radio, healthcare, and political organizing. Ramon leverages all his gained experiences and network for his own company, soon launching 3DLCE TV for Afro-Latino focused programming. At Montgomery College, he currently has the pleasure to serve as the Administrative and Fiscal Services Unit, supporting college facilities, student services, human resources, and administrators. Ramon is a father of 4 and currently resides in Maryland on his personal farm. Ramon recently served as chair of staff council and actively volunteers for student community service coordinating groups like Advancing Latino Male Achievement, ALMA, the Outdoor Adventures Club, and an advocate for artist networks seeking pathways for art music majors to provide more equity in student support. Mr. de la Cruz serves as the Central Services Building Coordinator of Montgomery College and a Theater Arts Alum 2015. Mr. de la Cruz enjoys gardening, being a father, and playing live music with his cover bands Spectrum and Tostada Quemada. Follow Ramon on Instagram at Real Munch and on YouTube, Very Dad Things, in his quest to inspire and motivate greatness through public speaking. Mr. de la Cruz will be performing January 21st, 2023 from 6 to 9 p.m. to benefit Black and Brown males in arts and theater students, presenting 2 fully funded endowments to the MC Foundation. Music performed will be from his newly released debut, Love the Album, live from Tacoma Park's Cultural Arts Center at the Montgomery College campus. So welcome, Ramon, to our event today. This is a true hybrid event. Our speaker is actually joining us virtually, and the hub is open, and we do have some guests here today. So with that, Ramon, thank you again for supporting the hub and speaking about technology from your perspective. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize my camera was off. Thank you so much for that introduction. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a lot. Hearing it myself. So excited to be here with you guys. A lot to talk about. How the digitization of life and society and just how we do things as humans communicate. Here we are right now, personifying that, using virtual technology to be present in multiple spaces. So that's one of the benefits. Also, this access that we have to one another, no matter where we are. So thank you for having me, Kimberly. How are we going to proceed? Are we is Luis going to moderate, or am I going to go right into the presentation?
Ramon, you can go right into your presentation. We do have a moderator. It's not, unfortunately, Luis. It's our amazing Sosna, but yes, jump right into your presentation.
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk about this. And when we talk about digital transformation of the artist's craft, let's talk about what art is first. Let's establish that. So anything intellectual property related, any idea you have, a quote, you can trademark, you can copyright intellectual property. such as literature, poetry, songs, music, my book, my album, for examples, any kind of creations, art, anything you can create graphically, anything you paint by hand, anything you create by hand sculpture wise, all those things are art. And philosophically speaking, I'm that kind of guy. Life is the ultimate art form, right? How you live your life and what you create with your life ultimately becomes this masterpiece of what you've left behind as a legacy. So, science fiction writer Sir Arthur C. Clarke, he had a nice quote. It says, "The only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible." So art is kind of that vehicle for us, how we visualize things that are not there, or how other people see things, same things that we see in a different way. So I think all that is beautiful about art. So that's what art is. Um, Now we want to talk about what technology and how access has changed how artists can create and deliver and distribute art. So we'll talk about the internet. The advent of the internet obviously gave artists this powerful tool for access right away. And even though it was early and people didn't know how to use it, at the very least, it created an alternate vehicle for communication in its first iteration. So Web 1.0, what we have up here, and we have things like AOL. Everybody was on AOL, MSN. It was basically kind of like a billboard. So we like a blank billboard, like what we have up here also. Think about it like that, where you could post information, kind of like a glorified Yellow Pages, an online index, so to speak. And then it evolved. It evolved into participatory and a centralized participatory system, which is where we are kind of now, and we're going into 3. So right now we have all the social media, so it allows you to interact, right? As opposed to just reading just what was on there like a billboard. You're allowed to interact, you're allowed to comment. And then we get into actually the ability to post and create our own and interact in a different way and becoming creators. Web 3.0, now we're moving into no intermediaries, decentralized, and here we're getting into crypto, the name of the other app, Discord, was escaping me for a second. Things like that are coming up that are decentralized, that are more platforms for interaction and engagement. So, and then, what's going to come of that? So as an artist in the beginning, I could just post, hey, here's my information, here's who I am. It was more like a bio, more like an online bio, which was how I used it in Web 1.0. Web 2.0, now I'm able to upload videos, music, directly without going through an intermediary. Sometimes it's a record label, sometimes it's a bank loan, however you're going to finance your project, a grant. Talk about those later. Obviously, free money is the best kind of money that you can get whenever you're financing any kind of idea. So this technology boom, artists had to keep up with this, and not only keep up with it, but become entrepreneurial in the way they manage the distribution of their art, which all this technology allowed us to do. Facilitate that kind of responsibility, but it also adds to the amount of responsibility as an artist. So in that way, you have to weigh the pros and cons of signing to a label or looking for a conventional record deal or something like that, because then you can share that duty, but you pay for that shared duty. So when you do it yourself, it's tough. Obviously, you keep more profit, but this technology boom allowed us to have that option, to make that decision, to say, no, I'm going to do this on my own, and I'll take what I can get, as opposed to going a conventional route. So, and now the metaverse. How's music going to take it further? Let's talk about where it's gone already. Gaming is the number one, is the lead train pushing all this going, because gaming is what kind of pushed, online to really kick off, because it was gamers that interacted most using that connectivity. So gaming is also the way that this is going to evolve, because education is going to go into gaming, and in the metaverse, we'll talk about this final version, whatever that's going to be, this interactive environment where we can interact almost first person through virtual maybe an Oculus device or some kind of visual aid. Maybe Google Glass. So much technology is coming out. As you can tell, I love technology. I read all the time. I'm always up on what's coming out in terms of research. I love investing, so I also love to know, what's being created, because knowing what's being created and tested helps to know where money should be invested, because those new products are where you have the most profit potential. But we're going off track. We're talking about digital art and technology. So the metaverse with this interactive environment. So imagine a lot of people play Fortnite. So imagine Fortnite when they had that concert with Travis Scott. So Fortnite is a video game that licenses a lot of material from other creators, content creators, artists. And they did a concert online with Travis Scott, recording artist and producer, where he was a digital character performing live in this online environment. And, if you had some basic, Oculus device or something, it would feel almost like you were immersed there for that moment. So imagine the potential of that, being able to engage digitally with your fan base, and not have any barriers other than technology, right? You can be wherever you are, the same concerts, everybody across the world, one time, you can do it in one theater and broadcast that. So all these advantages that came from this. Now, disadvantages, right? There's always disadvantages. Anything becomes decentralized, that means anybody can do anything with it. That's kind of where we are right now. With social media, you see this change in how we're allowed to engage in freedom of speech being infringed upon, in a lot of different manifestations of how this evolution is messy. Evolutions are always messy. No one knows what they're doing. That's the bottom line. With technology, everybody's testing out, everybody's trying to see. That's what research and development is so important in any company, because that's where you see what the possibilities are, right? You have to test out theories, you have to experiment. That's the very nature of science and exploration. All right, so this blew up, the internet, the web, interaction, how we can interact. And the last thing I want to say about this, more on an artist standpoint, is artists now have to manage more of their business, right? We talked about that, but specifically, what does that mean? It means you have to manage your website, create your website. After you already create your content, whatever your content is, book, music, whatever that is, now you have to, how are you gonna flip it, right? How are you gonna distribute it? How are you gonna market it? How are you gonna promote it? What's the plan? What's the budget? How much are you investing into this after you've invested for creation already? A lot of different grants available to artists. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I posted that today, a list of those. I shared from another colleague who does a lot of research and work in this, an A&R at a label. If you don't follow me, I'm Ramon Dela Cruz on LinkedIn, so follow me there. I share a lot of technology and technological innovation. I love that, right? I love the dreaming. I love the seeing what's possible. I'm the kind of person that believes at some point we're gonna have lightsabers. That's the Star Wars fan in me. But possibilities are endless when you can dream and hope and put that emotion into actual scientific exploration and research. I mean, look how far we've come. So for artists, look how far we've come. Now you have to manage your royalties. You have to sign up with a rights organization, a PRO, performance rights organization, ASCAP or BMI. There's another one, CSAC, but I think that's more like by invitation only. Then after that, you have to manage your online royalties, which I believe is Sound Exchange. So Sound Exchange is going to manage all your digital royalty rights. Then another one called Song Trust. Song Trust is going to manage anywhere that your songs are featured. And as part of that Sound Exchange, the second one, that's where when someone uses your song for a post, you collect royalties from those uses. So the onus is on the artist to manage how well they monetize their art now, or at least the option is there for them if they so choose. The technology is changing. So just some visuals of that on this first box up here is virtual reality, the Oculus device. It's kind of a basic goggle, kind of, or just over the eyes, minimal sound. If you go out to an arcade or something like that, you've been to Dave and Buster's, or you've been any place that has video games, you've seen those helmets that kind of, you're immersed in this kind of, not in a capsule, but, in the size of a playing area of about a capsule. Obviously, our mobile devices, our wearables, those things are changing. Now we have watches, got glasses. What's next? What about just an earpiece? That's everything in one. They've been experimenting with hologram technology, so at least projection. So I have one of the basic like projectable keyboards. So it's basically a laser light that projects a keyboard onto a surface. You can use that keyboard and it'll interact through Bluetooth with your device. It's pretty cool. But it's not there yet. It's still kind of rudimentary, for me at least. Machine learning, we'll talk about AI, how that's digitally transforming how an artist can make art, because now we can use AI to do it, or now others can use AI to do it, and that's going to take money out of the hands of artists. So, the big driver behind that, now everybody has used probably the Lensa app or has known someone who's used that Lensa app to kind of animate, cartoonify your pictures via AI. So that's what machine learning is. 3D printing, right? Allowing people to actually create physical things at home. So I have some ideas about what can come out of that. But just think about being able to order from Amazon, and instead of having to wait for it to be delivered, it just got printed. You have to wait for it to be printed. Like, just imagine that. Like, almost like the Jetsons, if you ever seen that show. Like, whenever they ate food, they pressed those buttons and it printed out the food for them. So 3D printing, that's the future of 3D printing. And all this built-in functionality, right? And that goes into smart homes, how, we have smart entertainment systems built into some sofas now. The TVs are smart. Refrigerators now know when they have to order some food. And the accessibility overlays that always, when you have this technology boom, how do you make sure everybody keeps up with it the same way? How do you make sure closed captions continue in ways with integrity and accuracy, and in accessible gaming? These are all new things, new advents, and innovations into inclusive and accessible technology. I borrowed this slide from an earlier presenter, Stacy Ford, so I appreciate that. She had a great presentation. If you didn't see that, it's probably up, so you can see it somewhere. All these future of tech series lunch and learns have been stellar. I've watched them all, so I appreciate that. Moving on, we'll talk about the digitization of currencies. So now, not only can an artist, own their master recordings, own all their publishing and royalties. If they produce the music, they also own the production royalties. Now they can actually create a coin of their own. So if you want to interact with Taylor Swift can create a coin of her own that she operates on her own website, and you have to buy those coins to get her merchandise or buy tickets to the concert, or maybe just right now what artists are doing is they're not making it mandatory, but if you have the coin, then you get kind of like a first dibs on releases, music, tickets, that kind of thing. So another opportunity that this digital transformation of art allows you to, create a currency of your own, and allows you a different way to monetize your art through NFTs. So now NFT is a non-fungible token. It allows you to create art and sell it on the blockchain, and the blockchain is basically something that registers ownership publicly. So it's a decentralized system, sort of like banks. And banks right now are a centralized banking system. They make the money. They provide the reports. They review the reports. So there's not a lot of checks and balances in the banking system. So someone, Satoshi, I believe was his last name, Nakamoto maybe, who is supposed the creator of Bitcoin, decided to create a digital currency, which is now fluctuating up and down all over. Cryptocurrency is a very volatile investment. So, but it's also an innovation. So it's kind of like the Wild West. Like, could you imagine telling the people that went out to mine gold, hey, that's a risky thing. Yeah, I know it's risky, man, but I'm trying to get some gold. I'm trying to, come up on some money. So, when you think about pioneers and innovators and people of that kind of nature, the risk is part of the process. No risk, no reward, they say. The greater the risk, the greater the potential for reward. That's also true, we found. Just some information about digital assets and cryptocurrencies from LinkedIn. At the end of 2021, the global market value for crypto assets rose to $3 trillion US, and in recent months has plunged to less than 1 trillion. That's $2 million crash in value. So, coupled with the collapse of FTX, they just charged and freed from FTX after they just, crashed that company. The Luna, the Terra tokens, the hedge fund 3 Arrows, and a bunch of other crypto investment firms. It's fueling concerns that about the risk that digital assets pose to consumers. So anytime you invest, make sure you're investing money that you can lose. You don't want to play like that, but that's something you have to accept as part of the risk. So that's on the evolution of money and my little PSA about that. But it provides an opportunity for artists in this digital transformation of the playing field of how an artist can interact and in what ways they can interact. This is like Crypto 101. I'll share this with you guys. Not a good slide to really read. But just a quick run through of what are some crypto coins, what is a crypto token, and here I'll show you on the rightmost side of that, the non-fungible token, a little bit about the NFT, which we just talked about for the artists, a unique form of a token representing verified ownership of a digital asset, how blockchain works for coins and tokens, proof of work and proof of stake, how those processes work. I'm not going to get into detail about that because I'm not an expert, because this field is still changing by the moment. I think government regulators are still trying to figure out what to do with XRP. So there's a lot of instability here, but it will stabilize, I think. But everything takes time. So if you want to see more about this, I can share the slide with all. A little bit about how blockchain technology works. So someone requests a transaction, like you want to send Bitcoin to somebody or buy something and use Bitcoin as the transaction. It's broadcast to a person-to-person network consisting of computers known as nodes. So these are individual people throughout the world that mine and verify transactions, so they can verify these transactions in a public place. So that's the difference between being centralized and decentralized. A centralized bank, they verify all those transactions in a very small circle. And decentralized, it's all open. It's open for the network. So anybody on the network can mine and verify transactions in real time. So there's more integrity in a sense to that than conventional banking, which, also presents a lot of questions itself about conventional banking and, how actually stable it is. It's more stable than this because it's the prevailing system, but does it being the prevailing system make it the best system? So we'll see. In the next 20 years, we'll come back and maybe we'll laugh at what I just said and be like, how did this guy not know crypto was going to be good? But maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. At the very least, it provides an alternate vehicle for artists and business to engage with their audiences. Ah, so like I said, I'm a little philosophical, an author, and this is for artists. Sometimes you get writer's block. Sometimes your inspiration is bobbing and weaving, so to speak. So just some things to think about. Anytime you're trying to create anything. So I figured maybe I was gonna have the chance to talk with some artists here. And if you are an artist and you're having challenges and creativity and channeling things, some things to think about to take your mind off the moment and reflect on the bigger masterpiece, the biggest uh, way you can create art, which is create a beautiful life. So I'm not going to go over this. Everybody can read for themselves. Number 6 is very important. Stop thinking too much. It's all right not to know the answers. Often you are the only competition and the only obstacle in the way of your vision, of your creation of art. So this digital transformation gives artists access to a lot of new tools, right? You don't have to paint with on an easel anymore. Now you can make a digital piece of art just as beautiful. So it's expanding how artists can engage with audiences. You see avatars, you see the NFTs being sold for, I mean, $30,000, $40,000 for avatars, because people are seeing the value of, like I showed you in that first slide about the evolution of the web. We're only at 3.0 and we still have 4.0 and the metaverse to go. So how are these going to be used in the metaverse, right? These are going to be like throwbacks, I remember when we sold these NFTs, and an NFT can be just a digital image. So they have the Bored Apes, I think, collection that is selling very highly, and they have a bunch of other collections. Artists are selling art as well. So there's different ways to engage with the audience through these NFTs, but that value, and no one knows what it's going to be, right? But it's going to be something. No, we just don't know where it's going to be because we don't know what that something is going to be yet, right? So it's almost like having a plastic mold for Lego with no instructions on what you're going to build with it, but also knowing that you might be able to build whatever you want with it, because what can't you build with like a Lego block, right? So a little about me. Um, when I go to a presentation, I don't really like to start with this, but Kimberly gave me such a great introduction, made me feel like I was too busy. My next introduction is going to involve the little likes to be on vacation at the beach and something. um, but the pandemic, we all went through it, and we all had to reflect a lot while we were going through it. So these are two manifestations of my reflections, personally and looking at us as a society, as a human race. These were passion projects of mine that the pandemic just gave me the time to complete. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh my God, I just had this time all at home and this is what I did. I had this stuff in the chamber, so to speak, for a long time, and the pandemic just afforded me the little breathing space I needed to finish. So I got to finish them. Um, Time is greater than money, volume 1. My philosophy on life, you don't get these moments back, so make sure you live them, make sure you're engaged in them, make sure you are present, right? That's the gift, being present. And I have Time is greater than money, volume 2 coming out, which is being an audio poetry project, mixtape I'm going to put out soon. And the album is called Love the Album. And Love the Album, I mean, I thought if I had to make something that I could live with for the rest of my life, my first project, and something that my kids could be proud of, something that I could listen to when I'm 90 years old, God willing. So that's what I made in Love the Album. It's streaming now everywhere, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple, obviously Amazon, Tidal, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. So please go enjoy. And look how this has changed for me. I can now manage my own website. I can manage the store on my website. I can manage the finance on my website. At the end of the year, I can print reports and review that and see where I'm overspending, where I'm not spending enough. I can look at engagement by audience. So by actual social media, you have insights on a professional dashboard that allow you this review of your engagement, right? Because it's checks and balances. This is entrepreneurial. This is also innovation. This is also pioneering. Nobody's ever done this before. While they've done things similar to this, nobody's done this exact thing with this content. Um, so that's all the good stuff, right? We talked about the show, fundraising for Montgomery College. So a portion of the proceeds are going to go to the Presidential Scholars Foundation for an endowment. We're going to perform some of the songs from Love the Album. I played with an incredible band called Spectrum from Washington Talent Agency. Played with them for about 12 years, so they're going to back me, and we're going to have a great time. And I just thought it was high time that everybody got back together out in the theater, see some live music. Oh my goodness. And as an alum of Montgomery College, I also performed with the World Ensemble. And for a long time, after they recorded one of our semester performances, they just had one recently, I think, or are gonna have one, maybe today or next week. But beautiful, huge orchestra and band presentation of world music. So having had performed in that, Montgomery College put that on MCTV for a while, and I thought that was so awesome. So I wanted to give them the opportunity to do something else while we raise money for our students, and we engage our community. We give our community a place and way to come together to celebrate what? Love. More philosophy from your boy, because this is what I'm about. If you're planning for 1 year, plant rice. If you're planning for 10 years, plant trees. If you're planning for 100 years, educate children. So education is a passion of mine. I'm a dad as well. And one thing I learned about dad is your kids are rarely listening to you. So I created a YouTube vlog called Very Dad Things, where I capture little moments that I have, little gems to share with them. And it's there for them to see. I'm going to stop sharing. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate that. I hope you've learned something at the very least. I will share this presentation with you. And I talked about all the good stuff. So what's the bad stuff? What are the challenges that these new tools and new technology present? So obviously cost. So cost limits how you can access. After you access, a lot of services are now subscription based. So now we've seen that with Adobe, how Adobe has this subscription based service now. But a lot of other also have the same. So that cost, access after you have the technology. So it's the cost of technology first, then that cost of access after, and then maintenance. How can you actually maintain and sustain that effort, that endeavor? So I'll kick it back to you, Kimberly. Thank you for giving me time today. I'm so excited here to share. So.
Thank you, Ramon. Thank you for your presentation. Yes, clap, clap, in person and online. So just a reminder, the Hub does record all of our presentations, and your presentation, Ramon, will be on our YouTube channel as well. So guests can look for that as well. At this part in the presentation, or the event rather, we're open to questions. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, or our guests that we have here in person, any questions that you have with that. And I'll maybe start. So Ramon, tell us, what do you think is the up and coming technology for artists that we should be on the lookout for?
So I think it's not going to be one, it's going to be what kind, and what kind are AI-based applications. So applications that kind of remove the artist and make it just an algorithm or a code that, you know, creates something for you based on on verbal specifications that you provide. So I think that's a threat and an opportunity, right? If we were creating a SWOT, that would be a threat and an opportunity.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the rest of our guests here. So AI, we should keep our eye
Yeah,
on
so
that.
Lensa is that new app that everybody's using to look like an anime character or a cartoon. And so there are two issues. One is on the front end, which is, you know, the artists and it competing for their business. And on the back end, you know, what does that user agreement say about the usage of your own image rights?
Yeah.
So, you know, that as an artist, I look at that. That's why I'm very slow to jump on apps. I'm like, ooh, it's gonna take me a while to read this user agreement. That slows me down because, you know, you have to be careful about how you're sharing, especially if you're artists and you're an artist that's conscious about ownership, because ownership is where your negotiating power comes from as an artist.
Thanks. I see a question in the chat. Let me just grab my iPad here so I can read it.
I got a question in the chat. I see it from Jabari.
Yes, from Jabari.
And he asked, what technology would I recommend to sell your music from? Let's see. I'll tell you what I use. I'll tell you why I use them. But before you know, I'm not pitching them. So that's why I'm not rushing to be like, hey, this is what to go for. I'm not pitching any service. I think the service that pays you the most is the service you should use. That's what I'm saying as an artist. What that is, you know, day to day, that could change. What I'm using right now may not pay me the most, but it gives me a kind of all-inclusive package deal. So it makes it a little easier. We talk about how much responsibility falls on the artist. You gotta fight your battles where you know where it's best to. Everything can't be a negotiating battle. Some things have to be, hey, all right, we're gonna do this the easy way. At least in the beginning, until we can go back and revisit that process and say, hey, is that the best way to do it, or is it just the way that we got it done? So I use DistroKid. DistroKid has worked well for me in terms of releasing my project. I released one project on DistroKid. I've released other projects on SoundCloud as well. The most important part about where you release your music is that you manage ownership and your royalties. So, you know, you want to make sure you're getting paid for those plays for your music. So that's going to be Sound Exchange and Song Trust after you get your performance rights organization, which is ASCAP or BMI, sorted out. So as an artist, there's a ticker list of things you need to have in place, foundational, both financial and organizational and ownership, you know, for your masters. So that's a great question, Jabari. Jabari asked, is it profitable to release music as NFTs? I want to say the verdict is still out on that. I think it's still the Wild West. I think, you know, we still don't know what's going on out there. And we have an idea, like people have talked about it, you know, there's gold in their mines. But we haven't seen a lot of people come back in our networks saying that, yes, you know, this is the process, here's how to replicate it, you know, that kind of thing. There's still kind of shots in the dark, still kind of getting lucky. So that's the business. I'm gonna give you the artist answer, because that's the business answer. The artist hat is different. As an artist, I want to say, yeah, it's gonna be profitable, because here's what it allows me to do. It allows me to release a version to the public, and then it allows me to also create a remix. So the way we had the remix back in the days in the 90s, every song had 4 or 5 remixes. Now we don't have that so much, but now that can exist in a way that, oh, Kimberly Blackrinkan can own this remix on the blockchain, right? And she can own it. She can own it for a certain time until the asset increases in value and she can sell for a small profit. So that's the way these NFTs can be profitable. Because as an artist, so the best way to release an NFT is make it so that the people owning the NFT can also make money off of it. And you can do that by charging a small fee instead of a large fee. So that way, you know, they can also make some money off of the fee. That fee is called gas. And right now, that is traded on the Ethereum platform, I believe. for OpenSea, at least for that. OpenSea is that platform for network. So it's the eBay for NFTs, so to speak. So great questions, Jabari. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you're looking into this. Gina, my good friend Gina, who's an awesome theater supporter at the college, Gina Maraza, and has had Tostada Kamala come in and play. So thankful for that. Appreciate that. I love when people get to see us make music. That's the most dynamic way to interact. And Gina asked, is there a place listing this checklist? No, there's not, Gina, but maybe we should make one. Not that I can think of. That was just kind of my improvisation as I went down the things that I had to do as an artist. So, but that's something that we can create. I think that would be an awesome tool. And I'm also talking about how we can support our artists at the college more. Because there's this, I don't know, there's me as a student who came through the college. I graduated in Associate of Arts. I'm with you, Gina. So we got homework from this. So I'm with you. Gina says, let's make the list in the chat. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I'm always open for new projects because our artists need resources. They need guidance beyond just, hey, here are the fundamentals. Here are the building blocks. We do the same thing for STEM students. We give them the building blocks. But after they get the building blocks, we're like, hey, here's a pyramid design. Oh, and here's the top. Oh, and let me walk you over to this guy so you can get a job from somewhere. Like that's the same kind of support I want to see given for our artists. And hopefully at the show, I can raise enough money to make this an annual event so that I can give to multiple financial resources for students. So
Ramon,
thank
there's
you,
another
Gina.
question from William in the chat.
Let's see, what did William ask? He asked something about Nas's royalties on the King's Disease 3, right? Okay, what I think about MC Search description of his deal with Nas Real-O-Matic royalties. So, William, give me more information about this because I am not caught up. I know the basics of it. I know that, Searchlight Publishing owned the publishing rights for Nas's Illmatic album. So tell me what I'm missing from that. Let's see.
Yeah, I could turn on my mic. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no, there was a few YouTube channels around, folks doing interviews. He made it a point to mention Search that he at a point where he could have taken advantage of a rapper who was very talented, he chose to take I think it was a 4% or something really small, seemingly at the time. Right. And he said he's lived very comfortably off of that. And like the just general idea that the creative arts attracts, such talent, but also attracts a really negative aspect of business and folks who want to take advantage, right? Like, how do you see like educating artists on how to look out for that, and kind of attracting more positive vibe, because it's so easy to from way back in the 20s, all these artists were taken advantage of, so what do you think about that?
So I think that any problem that's systemic requires revolution. So I'll say that about that. So that's a systemic problem. What you're talking about with ownership. So digital transformation allows us to now control our ownership, maintain our ownership, because that becomes now equity. That becomes how we gain equity through owning these publishing royalties. Thank you for sharing that story, man. That's an awesome story, by the way. Like that, I knew MC Search gave a little of that publishing, but it's funny how a little goes a long way. What I want to say about that is MC Search was part of Third Base, and Third Base made some money in their own time in the 90s making hip hop. So I think he had the knowledge of an artist and he said, I'm gonna pay it forward, right? I learned something, obviously. I'm sure he didn't get that deal when he got the deal with Third Base, but he made sure that when he did it with an artist, that he did it the right way. So I think that's great. I think, that's a great topic to make a TikTok video about, because I would love to see that out there viral. That's a great story. And let's see, you have multiple parts to that question. So, see, full albums coming back.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm from the day when you listen to a whole like Stevie Wonder album, and I know I'm dating myself, you know, the whole thing. And now it's, you know, the attention span is so short that almost the opposite of what the trend is towards, you know, something you can make quickly and make money from.
Yep.
The artist kind of always does something different, you know, and how can you see that coming back? Or if you can't, that's fine.
every artist speaks to an audience, right? You know, very few people speak to everybody, like, you know, and even the people that kind of speak to everybody, you know, the people we see on TV all the time, you know, Super Bowl hosts, that kind of stuff. You know, we trust them, but to a point. We don't really trust them. Like, you know, we're not going to run for them. We're not going to vote for them if they run for office. Not that kind of trust. Like, I trust you in an entertainment way. I trust you, you know, as an entertainer, to entertain or to present or to do some basic stuff like that. So I say this to say that, to say this. The artist speaks to an audience. So you have to know how to speak to your audience, right? And I think me as an artist, it's taking me so long to think about this because I have to improvise right now, because I don't think about what my audience is how my audience is interpreting what I'm creating. I'm just trying to be pure in the creative process, in the present, in the moment. And whatever comes to me, I'm going to put out. And I know your question was about how to put that out. And that's why I'm talking about the artist and the audience, and knowing your audience, knowing how your audience digests, right? Make believe you're a chef, right? And you're gonna make a 4-course meal. You're gonna set all 4 courses out at the same time, or you're gonna, you know, one at a time. You're gonna serve them, and you're gonna, you know, you let the palate actually absorb that course, right? So I think that, you know, if I'm thinking about it like that, it's up to the artist how they want to release it.
Right.
I mean, think about how we're digesting things right now, content, right? Let's talk about Netflix, Disney. So Netflix will drop a series, and will drop a series, the whole thing, the whole season in one banger. You can binge it as fast as you want, right? But then Disney dropped Andor, and it was, you know, you got to wait every week. You got to, you know, every Wednesday. So pros and cons to both things, right? One thing, it allows one way allows the consumer to digest it in the way that they see fit. The other one makes it more like, oh, I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week. You know, so pros and cons to both ways to release.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy with the whole, you know, the Netflix, you know, and you know, I wonder what goes into the thought of releasing, you know, like a whole Witcher, for instance, you know, the whole series in one drop, and then parsing out. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So and that's kind of what I do when I have questions that come up like that. I say, well, you know, what's being done? You know, what are the big boys doing, so to speak? You know, because there's benchmarking going on all around. You know, nothing's new under the sun. So somewhere you can find the answer just by kind of observing the landscape.
Appreciate that.
Great question. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Do we have any other questions? Feel free to unmic if you'd rather do that instead of type in the chat. We are an intimate group today, so I think that works well. Okay, if we don't have any other questions, Ramon shared his contact information. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to connect with him afterwards for any questions that you have. One of the things I love about the future of tech and the fireside chat is that our audience and the guests that come to the hub, they're very knowledgeable, and they look for our speakers to be knowledgeable as well. And so the dialogue that we just had is a perfect example of how we create a community here. It's not an expert and somebody who's learning. We're all in this together. So that is what we intend here at the hub. In the chat, we put a link to a survey. Please fill that out. As you know, we just wrapped up our first 6 months of the hub, so we're looking at data. So please let us know how you enjoyed this activity, the event. We do look at the information, and we will be modifying our programs and services based on that, of what our audience would like to have coming from the hub. So thank you for that. Last plug here, as I said, this is the last Future of Tech Lunch and Learn session for 2022. So we're in December. Exciting news, our microchip has come in. So we are going to be a high flex classroom here at the hub. So we're actually going to be closed, be starting next Monday through January 13th for the installation of that microchip. So we are so excited about that. Continue to follow us on our webpage, follow us on our events calendar. We are doing a winter boot camp with ITI on cyber security, cloud, and Python as well. So there are still openings for that as well. If you are not on our mailing list, please go to our webpage and hit subscribe, and we will get your information and we will add you. So wishing everyone a wonderful, restful winter break. I hope everybody gets some time off and enjoys this period of time between December and January, where we can reflect and rest and get ready for whatever 2023 has for us. So thank you, fill out the survey, and see you next year.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon. Bravo.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
And Christmas too, right?
Happy Kwanzaa, happy Festivus, everything.